Is West Virginia fixing to replace Scotty Fox as a QB1 in Morgantown? Is this the right move? Should Scotty Fox be QB1 next season, or will this upcoming potential transfer be the guy to take the reins? That we're talking about Michael Hawkins Jr. and his visit to West Virginia. We're going to talk about that in this live edition of Kuz's Corner. What is up, and welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us live here on this Saturday evening. It's been a while, man. I haven't been with you guys in almost a week. I feel like I'm a little rusty, actually. It's very rare that I go this long without producing content, but here we are. I took a few days off to spend time with family, enjoy the new year, but we are back and we are ready to go. Also in this live show, we're going to talk about the return of Rick Trickett. I know that's old news, but I have not talked about it here on the show as of yet. I'm going to do that today, give you my thoughts on it, and then we're finally going to, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about West Virginia basketball's loss, men's basketball, and their loss in the Big 12 opener at Iowa State. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the stats from the game. I'll give you my overall thoughts on what I saw and what that means for the rest of this season. So let's go ahead and dive right into the show. Thank you all for joining. For those of you who are live, we have WVU for us. We have Don Johnson, Mike Hudgens. Thank you all for joining the show. Those are the ones in the chat. If you want to make sure I see your comment in the chat room, you can drop a super chat and highlight your comment. You hit the $sign near the chat box, make a small donation. I'll see your comment. I'll also give paid VIP members first dibs on all chats as well for those who join us now. And I'll get to other comments as I can. First, let's go ahead and dive into the topics for this show. And again, you see the topics on tap. Michael Hawkins Jr. coming to Morgantown potentially, Rick Trickett returning, and then WVU falling to Iowa State in men's basketball. Let's go ahead and talk about the first topic, and that is the potential of Michael Hawkins Jr. and his visit to WVU. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Michael Hawkins Jr. Now, Michael Hawkins Jr. is a redshirt freshman who, he'll be a redshirt sophomore, I guess, coming in next year. He played his true freshman year in 2024, redshirted in 2025. So, I guess technically he will be a redshirt freshman. He will still have 3 years of eligibility remaining. So, Michael Hawkins was a 4-star recruit when he was recruited to Oklahoma 2 years ago. He has started some games in Oklahoma. He filled in when John Mateer got hurt this year. And the previous year, he actually started about 4 games for the Sooners. He's a dual threat quarterback, which, I do think he'll be a great fit for Rich Rodriguez's offense. I think he'd be a good pickup. Now, do I think Michael Hawkins Jr. is going to come in and be QB1? Not necessarily, but do I think he will have a chance to compete for QB1? Absolutely. Now, I don't know what the numbers are here as far as NIL money-wise, but I have a feeling that Michael Hawkins Jr. is not going to be as expensive as going out and getting someone like a Brennan Sorsby or a Sam Levitt, maybe not even as expensive as someone like a Colton Joseph. You might be able to get Michael Hawkins at a decent price, right? He's not going to be one of these $2, $3, $4 million quarterbacks. You might get it. You're probably getting him for less than $1 million. He can come in and he is someone who can compete with Scotty Fox for the starting quarterback job next year. Rich Rod is not going to hand anyone a job. Everyone has to compete with it. And I know there are mixed opinions on Michael Hawkins. If West Virginia does get him, there are mixed opinions on whether he should be the guy or not. Again, let the best man win the job. As long as you're not breaking the bank to get this guy, I like the addition. I have been saying on this show that I thought they should bring somebody in to compete with Scotty Fox. I do think with the right pieces around him, I do think Scotty Fox has the ability and the talent to win games at West Virginia. I really do. But I also don't think he should be just handed the job. I do, he has a lot of growing to do. And I do think he needs to compete. And if there's an opportunity to get somebody as good or better, they should do it as long as they're not paying $3 or $4 million to do so. And they can use whatever money they save on a quarterback by going out and using it on offensive line, defensive line, and other positions of need on this football team. West Virginia needs a really good quarterback. They don't necessarily need an elite quarterback to be competitive. Obviously, an elite quarterback can get you, to the top of the food chain in college football, at any level of football. I get that. But right now, where West Virginia is in the rebuilding process, going into year 2 of Rich Rod, I don't think you need to go out and spend $3 or $4 million on a quarterback. I just don't, especially when you have so many other needs. They're losing 43 guys, I think is the last I read, 42 or 43 players to the portal. Now, most of those guys didn't play a ton of snaps, but there are still bodies that you need to replace on your football team for practice bodies and for depth purposes. So you have to bring players in. You had 40 graduate. You had about 43 leave to the portal. You signed 49 in the signing class. So what's that leave you? You're going to have to get quite a few guys out of the portal, probably 30 to 40 guys potentially. Maybe not quite that many because there is a new roster limit of 105, or at least close to 105 going into effect this year. But you're going to probably have to get it about 25, 30 guys, maybe 35 guys out of the transfer portal in order to fill your roster. So not everybody that's brought in is going to be a starter. But this is one in Michael Hawkins Jr. that I think could be a starter. Again, he was a 4-star. According to 24/7 Sports Composite, he was a 4-star recruit coming in 24. He was recruited by some of the top programs in the country like Alabama, Michigan, obviously Oklahoma, many others. He was a top-level high school player. Has showed some great signs at Oklahoma of what he can do, but was not able to win the starting job over John Mateer, who they went and got from Washington State. But he has showed some signs, especially as a runner. I think when you compare, and I'm actually in a second, I'm going to pull up comparison. I'm going to compare Michael Hawkins Jr.'s numbers in the first 2 years of his career with Scotty Fox. And we're going to see that, look at the tail of the tape, so to speak, as far as stats, PFF grades, and those types of things, and just see which quarterback is a better option for West Virginia. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that right now. When you look, I don't have their size on the spreadsheet here that I'm showing, but they're close to the same size. You've got Scotty Fox, who stands about 6'2", weighs about 213 pounds. You have Michael Hawkins Jr., who stands about an inch shorter, but also goes a little bit lighter, about probably around 206, 207. So, the size is the size difference is minimal. But with Michael Hawkins, you're getting someone who's faster as a runner, has better speed, and in my opinion, is a great fit for what Rich Rod wants to do offensively. And before I get to these comparisons here, something else I want to talk about is, let's not forget, Zach Alley, the defensive coordinator at West Virginia, was at Oklahoma a year ago before he came to West Virginia. Guess who he got to practice against almost every day? Michael Hawkins Jr. So he's going to be able to tell Rich Rod, hey, this is a guy that I struggled against at practice. He's going to be able to tell Rich Rod, hey, this is whether or not this is a good guy who would fit what they do. And I'm sure Rich Rod's going to ask his opinion. As well as his receiver coaches, quarterbacks coach, obviously Rhett Rodriguez, Pat White. There's going to be a lot of voices in the room saying, hey, is this guy a fit or is he not a fit? They seem to think he's a fit. And also Chuck Lilly, the GM for the football team. He was at Oklahoma as well in a role there in a personnel role of some sort. I'm sure he might have a relationship with Michael Hawkins. He can tell them the kind of young man Michael Hawkins is. They can speak to his character, to his, is he a good fit in the locker room? All of those things. And I think that's important. We can't lose sight of that. But let's go ahead and look at the numbers here. A lot of similarities. Hawkins has thrown about 23 less passes in his career, but is also completing passes at a slightly higher clip, about 3% higher. He's thrown for one less touchdown, but again, on less attempts, but he's also thrown fewer interceptions. He's completed 91 of 147 passes for 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. 61.9% completion percentage over the course of 9 total games and 5 starts. 369 total snaps. He's thrown for 950 yards. Average PFF passing grade of 62.2, so slightly above average. He's ran the ball 84 times for 262 yards, 3.1 yards per rush. That includes sack yards, by the way, for 2 rushing touchdowns, an average PFF run grade of 68.2. So very good. 68.2 is a very good score in the run game. Average PFF offensive grade overall of 68. That's over his 2 years with the Sooners. I mentioned he's played in 9 games. He started 5 games in his 2 years and has played 369 total snaps. Now, the reason he's a redshirt is he only played in 2 games his second season, which was last year, so he can redshirt. So that is a redshirt year, which means he still has 3 more years to play. So he played his true freshman year, redshirted his redshirt freshman year, or his sophomore year, I guess you could say. So he's technically a redshirt freshman. All right. Or will be a redshirt freshman. Now, when you look at Scotty Fox Jr., he's completed 101 of 170 passes for 59.4%, so slightly below what Hawkins has done, but in, more attempts, to be fair. He's thrown 7 touchdowns, but to 6 interceptions. So he's a little bit – Hawkins is better as far as the touchdown-to-interception ratio. Fox has thrown for more yards of 1,276, but has a much lower, about 7 points lower on his PFF passing grade of 55.2. He also had 84 rushing attempts, just like Hawkins. Had 201 yards, which was less. Only averaged 2.4 yards per rush. And had 3 rushing touchdowns. His average PFF run grade was, again, lower than Hawkins by a pretty large margin here at 55.7. Whereas, like I mentioned earlier, Hawkins had a PFF run grade of 68.2. Average PFF grade overall on offense for Fox is 55 compared to 68 for Hawkins. Fox has played in 1 more game, started 1 more game, and again he's played 414 snaps compared to 369 for Hawkins. So Scotty Fox has just as much game experience, actually slightly more than Hawkins does. He also has played in more Power 4 games. All 6 games that Fox started were against Power 4 teams, whereas Hawkins only started 2 games against Power 4 teams in his career. Those were against Texas and South Carolina, both in his freshman season. However, what you can't discount on Hawkins is he did spend a year practicing against that really good Oklahoma defense. That counts for something. So he's a year older than Fox and has an extra year of practicing against Power 4 competition, but less game experience, which I do think is probably a lot more valuable. But again, the experience difference is very minimal. Both guys have experience against P4 competition, a lot of experience against FBS competition for their age. Each have 3 years of eligibility remaining. So I think that's valuable as well. Now, the cool thing about Michael Hawkins Jr. is the fact that his brother, Maliek Hawkins, who's a year behind him, is also looking to transfer. And according to Pete Thamel over at ESPN, wants to transfer to the same school as his brother. He's a defensive back. West Virginia just so happens to also need defensive back help. They're losing a ton of bodies from that room. And when you look at Maliek Hawkins' recruiting profile, he was a 3-star coming out of high school, a .88, so a high 3-star. Rated as the number 55 corner in the country out of Frisco Emerson High School in Texas. In addition to Oklahoma, he was also recruited by Arkansas, Indiana, Mississippi State, Texas, and others. Now, Indiana on there. Kurt Cignetti was recruiting this young man. Arguably the best college football coach in the country wanted Maliek Hawkins. Brent Venables, arguably the best defensive coach in the country, wanted Maliek Hawkins. And he ultimately ended up going to Oklahoma. Now, he only played in 1 game, so he still has all 4 years of eligibility remaining. So in one visit, you could get 2 quality young players at positions of need, in my opinion, in Morgantown. And for those who say West Virginia don't need a quarterback, they've lost 3 quarterbacks to the portal. Jalen Henderson, Khalil Wilkins, and Nico Markiel. You can't go into the season with 3 quarterbacks. Right now they have Scotty Fox, Max Brown, and I guess Max Anderson. You can't. You have to have more than 3 quarterbacks. Now they did sign 3. I can't forget about the young true freshman Jaron Hewley. Wyatt Walker-Brown, and I think his name's John Johnson from down in New Orleans. So they technically have 6 quarterbacks. So was it truly a position of need? I think so. We didn't get to see enough of Max Brown, and what we did see of Max Brown wasn't great. And throughout his career, he's been interception. He's thrown a ton of interceptions in his career. So I don't have confidence that Max Brown's a guy you can lean on to be your backup. And Scotty Fox, I just went through his numbers. PFF grades of 55. He was a true freshman. We have to account for that. But is he really are you 100% certain you can hand him the range right now? Like I said, I think you can if you put the right pieces around him, but it's still a pretty big risk. So you bring in somebody like Michael Hawkins Jr. to compete for that job, who also, by the way, happens to bring his younger brother with him, who's a good young defensive back as well. I think it's a no-brainer. I think you do it. I think you bring him in. Now, would I like to see them get an elite quarterback who's, who can come in and be a starter day one? Yes, that would be great. But again, do you really want to pay $3 or $4 million to get that guy? I don't think that would be a good use of money. I really don't. I think you need to spend the money. I think there are so many positions of need on this team. You can't afford to spend a huge chunk of it on one player. It'd be different if they only needed 10 or 15 transfers, but they're going to have to get 20, 25 guys probably, maybe more. I haven't actually sat and done the math yet. They're going to have to get a bunch. So you can't afford to go out and spend $3 or $4 million on one player. They may only have 10 to spend, if that, overall as a team. Do you want to spend 4 on one player, or even 2? I just don't think you can do that. So by getting Michael Hawkins Jr., he could end up being an elite quarterback in the Big 12. Who knows? At least he's serviceable. At least he would be at best, or at least a quality backup, and at best could be your QB1 next year. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it'll be a good addition. Again, as I'm doing this live show, I have not seen any breaking news that he signed, but he did come on a visit, and On3 has put their, I think it was either On3 or 24/7 I think maybe both of them actually have crystal balled him to go to West Virginia. So it looks like he will be West Virginia is the favorite to land him. Before we get over to the next topic, I'm going to go ahead and get into the chat real quick. We have Brian Miller and has added to the chat. Seymour Wang in the house has come join the chat as well. Soul Jeremy's in the house as well. I have not seen anything on Deuce Knight. Not that I can recall anyway. There's so much going on. So many social media sites or posts rather to follow. It's hard to keep up with all of them. Got Nick Kelso in the house as well. Says, Woo damn pig, good luck, ears in the portal. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. It must be an Arkansas fan in the house. I'm desperate for info. Happy New Year to you and your family. That is from WFE Hardcore, I think, if I'm reading your name. Browns and Beards, who's a paid VIP members in the house. Says, must win against either Cincy Tuesday or Kansas Saturday. Absolutely. Talking about men's hoops. Scott McBride says, Scotty Fox isn't that great. We need a real QB. And by the way, you let me know if you're watching this on the replay. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts? Do you think Scotty Fox is the guy they need to hand the reins to? Do you like the idea they're bringing in somebody to compete with him that's based on his numbers is pretty close to Scotty Fox, maybe a little better, but, will be basically a good competitor for the job? Or would you rather him go out and get a proven P4 quarterback who they can hand the reins to on day one? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, guys, whether you're watching this live, whether you're watching it on the playback. The thumbs up really helps the algorithm, as do the comments. Interactions are really, really good. And if for that algorithm, it shows that you like my content, and we'll get my stuff pushed out to more people. All right, let's go ahead. H. Bar Farkle's in the house. What's up, brother? Also a paid VIP member here. Thank you for coming in. All right. Seymour Wang, great great segue. He says the Rick Trickett edition is our biggest move of the offseason. Full stop. National championship winning assistant. That is what we're talking about next. Is Rick Trickett coming back to Morgantown? Again, this is old news that happened, I guess, last weekend. There's an article up on the site at wvsportschat.com you can go check out. But Rick Trickett, the offensive line coach who was at West Virginia from 2001 to 2006 with Rich Rod, is back. He's also spent time with Rich Rod at other stops, including at Jacksonville State. He was at Jacksonville State this past season. He stayed there to coach alongside his son, Clint, who was the offensive coordinator at the time. Clint has now moved on and taken a job at Arkansas. And Rick has decided he's going to come back and join the Mountaineer staff to be their O-line coach. That means that Jack McNeil is likely not going to be back. I think his contract expires around February 1st. He likely will not be retained. If he does, it will be at a different spot. But Rick Trickett is returning as O-line coach. Not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I do agree with Seymour that this is so far the biggest pickup of the offseason. I have no doubt in my mind, and maybe, look, I could be wrong here, but I'm very confident that had Rick Trickett been the O-line coach last year, our O-line would have been better by the end of the year. They might have still struggled early on like they did, but by the end of the season, I think we would have seen more improvement. I think you'd have been able to get, like Rich Rod likes to say, that much. You'd have been able to get some push up front because Rick Trickett builds absolute studs. He puts guys in the league. He puts guys on the all-conference team. It's what he's done his entire 50-year career, I guess. He's at 77-ish years old, so we're not sure how much time he has left, but as far as coaching, but for right now, he still wants to coach, and I still think he can get the job done. He won, I don't remember the name of the award, but he was given some kind of an award for being of the top offensive assistant, I think, in Conference USA last year. So he can still coach ball. He still has the energy to do it. Now, will he be on the road recruiting? I don't know. He has made comments that he didn't like the idea of coaching guys who made more money than him. That was actually the reason he gave, alongside wanting to coach with Clint, for not coming last year, because Rich Rod did ask him to come with him, but he chose not to. But for whatever reason, he's had a change of heart. Maybe they threw more money his way. Maybe now that Clint has left Jacksonville State, now it's a chance for him to coach alongside his other son, Travis Trickett. So maybe that's something that enticed him as well. And I'm sure he does have an assistant O-line coach who, if he needs somebody else to go on the road recruiting, Derek Dressler can do that. But either way, Rick Trickett is back as the O-line coach, and I think it's an absolute awesome fit. We know that he and Coach Rod work well together because they've done it before. We know he can coach linemen up to block in the zone blocking scheme. In that run game, Jacksonville State had one of the top rushers in the country this past season. They had one of the top rushers in the country the year before with Rick Trickett there. He coached the O-line for that 2005-2016. He left in 2007 to go to Florida State, where he spent about 10 years coaching there with Jimbo Fisher. Won a national championship there with Jimbo Fisher. I think he might have even coached there with Bobby Bowden some before Bobby Bowden retired. But nonetheless, he's a national championship winning football coach who knows more probably about coaching O-line than anybody in the country. He's been there. He's done it. It's, to me, he's going to make men out of boys. And he's a perfect fit for what Rich Rod wants to do because they've worked together for so long. They're going to speak each other. Heck, they can probably finish each other's sentences by now. So this is an absolute home run addition to the staff. I think the offensive line automatically got better just with his addition. Now, they still have to go out and get bodies and get quality bodies out of the portal, hopefully. But I think you will see a much improved offensive line just for the simple fact that Rick Trickett is leading that room. I think game one, we will see a difference. That's how big of a hire I think this is. And no, not trying to be disrespectful to the previous offensive line coach, but I think it's a night and day difference, just my opinion. And I think the results over his course of his career speak for themselves. So Rick Trickett coming to Morgantown so far, definitely the biggest addition to the team, to the program this offseason, and it might be the case the entire time because I think he's that important. And would it be bigger than adding someone like Michael Hawkins? Absolutely. I think so. I think he's that important because I think there are more quarterbacks out there to choose from. Not a ton of offensive line coaches as good as Rick Trickett. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the last topic of the show. West Virginia men's basketball got absolutely boat raced 80-59 in their first Big 12 game against Iowa State. Not a huge surprise. I think we saw it coming, or at least a lot of us did. So, but man, it's just getting harder and harder, to be honest, to watch this team. Look, the effort is there. I have no doubt they're putting forth the effort. I have no doubt they're trying hard. I have no doubt they want to win. And they seem like great young men, great ambassadors and representatives of West Virginia University. I want to get that out there. But man, and first and foremost, before I get too far, I do want to say Iowa State looks to be an elite basketball team. I think they are a national championship contender. I think they're that good. Okay? It was on their home court. West Virginia was without Brennan Laureate, which we'll get to in a minute. But they are just much more talented right now than West Virginia is. Now, have I given up on Ross Hodge? Absolutely not. But I think I think Ross Hodge is recruiting well, and I think he's working on bringing in guys that can play in the Big 12. But right now, the current roster as it sits today, I don't think, personally, is Big 12 ready. I just don't see I only see one or two players on that roster, maybe three, that are good enough to play in the Big 12 right now. And I'm not sure any of those three are Big 12 starter caliber players. I think West Virginia we have to give Ross time to get more of his recruits in. We've got Miles Sadler, Aliou Dioum coming in next year, Kingston Whitty, some really good recruits, along with the young players on the roster now that I think have the chance to be really good later down the road, like Amir Jenkins, DJ Thomas, Jaden Forsyth. I think all of those guys have a chance to be really, really good. But right now, all three of those guys are true freshmen. And as we saw last night, they're making true freshman mistakes. DJ Thomas, for example, played a lot of minutes in place of Brennan Laureate, who was out with an injury. Did some good things on the defensive end, but man, on the offensive end, he traveled multiple times. It just looked like the moment was too big for him. Looked like things were moving a little quick for him right now. He was in a very hostile environment, one of the most hostile environments he'll see. The first time he had ever been in an environment, most of the environments they've played in, let's face it, have been West. Even the neutral site games they've played in have in large part been pro West Virginia crowds, maybe with the exception of the crowd in Cleveland when they played Ohio State. But even then, you saw a large contingent of West Virginia fans. So this is the first time this team has been away from Morgantown in a hostile environment. And you saw that last night at times, I thought. Now, they didn't turn the ball over a ton, but there were other things they were just outmatched in. And speaking to DJ Thomas specifically, I think the young man has a great upside, a high ceiling. I think he can be a very good player for this team. But he's just not ready to play those type of minutes right now. And he was forced into that last night because of the injury to Brennan Laureate, unfortunately. And Jackson Fields honestly didn't seem to be playing much better, at least early on. Now, let's go ahead and pull up some stats. I'll read some of these stats to you as we go. Iowa State shot 53% from the floor and 52% from three-point range. Hard to beat any team who shoots the ball at that clip. They were only 60% from the free throw line, ironically. But they shot it great everywhere else, including from three. They made 13 of their 25 threes. They just shot lights out, especially Momcilovic, who was 9 of 13 from the floor, 8 of 10 from three last night, and dropped 26 points. He was almost unguardable last night. And there were even times that West Virginia allowed him to get open. They had miscommunications. Coach Hodge talked about that in his postgame presser. They had miscommunications, not getting out on him like they should have at times, and gave him too many open looks. And even when he's not open, he can drain them, which he did last night. So hats off to that young man. One of the best shooters I've seen, and maybe one of the best shooters in the Big 12, if not the best shooter in the Big 12. And unfortunately, West Virginia's best shooter, Honor Huff, did not have a good night. Only had 6 points, was only 1 of 8 from 3. It wasn't his night. He had an off night. Some credit goes to Iowa State's defense, and then other times he had open looks and just missed them. So you had Iowa State's great shooter making his shots, West Virginia's best shooter not making his shots. And then Huff didn't get a ton of help either from other guys on the team. Eagle staff did make 2 threes out of his 4 attempts, but only had 6 points overall. Have to have more from that young man. Jasper Floyd only with 9 points on 1 of 5 shooting. Did make 1 3-pointer. Chance Moore was the best player on the floor last night for West Virginia with 17 points. Also had 7 rebounds. So he played a really good game, was doing a great job getting the ball to the rim, especially in the first half. Harlan Obioha, 2 points, 2 rebounds. We have to have more from Harlan Obioha on the glass. I've said it many, many times. You're 7 foot tall, 260 pounds. 2 rebounds is unacceptable. Can't do it. Have to have more. Amir Jenkins, the freshman point guard, was 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 4 assists. So he had a good night, led the team in assists along with Harlan. Now, Harlan did do a good job, not to be totally negative. Harlan did that reminded me about a few things. Harlan did a good job when he was getting the ball in the post, especially in the high post, was doing a good job finding cutters. Like Chance Moore, he found Chance Moore a couple different times, cutting to the rim. So Harlan Obioha is a good passer for a big man, and he does do some good things. But man, he's just not a good rebounder. Not a good rebounder, and he's inconsistent as far as scoring the ball around the rim. DJ Thomas, I mentioned him earlier. He did have 10 points. Was the second highest scorer on the team. Was 4 of 8 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3. Had 3 rebounds on the night, but also turned it over 3 times. And then you have Jackson Fields. I keep wanting to call him Jasper Fields. Jackson Fields with 2 points, 2 rebounds, only played 7 minutes last night. So not sure what's up with that. Not sure why his minutes weren't more. Either he wasn't playing well or he's just not back in the game shape yet. Not sure which it is. But nonetheless, have to have more from really everybody on that basketball team. There was not really one player last night I thought played a great game outside of Chance Moore. Just a lot of inconsistent play. Guys, once again, the offense, in my opinion, just gets stagnant. They felt they don't move around enough. They don't pass the ball enough. They try to do too much one-on-one stuff. This basketball team is not good enough to try to do it. Honor Huff can create some shots. Chance Moore can take it to the rack some. Eagle staff has shown flashes, been able to do that. But, man, overall as a team, they need to stop trying to play one-on-one basketball and play more team-oriented offense. When they do that, they play much better on both ends of the court. It's like they have their foot in concrete at times. They just stand around. The coaches aren't running enough sets, or they're not executing the sets that are being run or being called, rather. I don't know which it is. I don't want to blame it all on coaching, but as of right now, the coaching from an offensive standpoint, in my opinion, has not been there because the players are just not. They just don't. I don't even know how to describe it. It just looks mundane. And I know they like to slow the game down and shoot late in the shot clock, and I don't really even have a huge problem with that. But they fail to get good shots. They just don't run. They don't run enough good sets. And again, maybe it's just poor execution, but something's got to change, man. I just do not like what I see offensively, and even the defense at times had lapses last night, more so than they had in other games. But for Iowa State, let's give them some credit. A very, very good basketball team. I think, again, a national championship contending team, in my opinion. Could win the Big 12. Some other individual performances I mentioned, Momcilovic. Tamin Lipsey had 12 points to go along with 4 rebounds and 5 assists. Of Great all-around game from him. Jefferson did a great job last night. He had 10 points, 10 rebounds, so a double-double from him. Buchanan, 14 points, 6 rebounds. Those were all the key performers from last night. So just shout out to Otzelberger and that Iowa State team. It's going to be, I think it'll come down to Iowa State and Houston and Arizona as who wins the conference. And I would not be surprised at all if Iowa State ends up being that team standing at the end of the year with the Big 12 championship. They are a very good basketball team. They've beaten a lot of good teams so far this year, or at least a couple. And they look to be one of the best teams in all the country right now. So, but rebounding, when you look at the team stats, though, rebounding is really where I thought West Virginia lacked. They got out rebounded 35-23 on the night. Can't have that. They gave up 23 defensive rebounds to their 16 and gave up 12 offensive rebounds to their 7. Iowa State converted those 12 offensive rebounds into 11 second chance points. Huge difference in the game. That wasn't the total difference, but a huge difference in it. But Brennan Laureate being out, he is their top rebounder, and when he's out, it really, the team struggles to rebound at times anyway. But when you have your best rebounder out and one of your best defenders out, if not the best defender, it really puts your team in a bind. And now, do I think Brennan Laureate playing would have made a difference in the outcome of the game? I do not. Iowa State was still a much better team and would have defeated West Virginia anyway, in my opinion. But the game would have at least been more competitive. You would have had a few more rebounds, a few more shots at the basket. So instead of 80-59, maybe it's, 75-65 or, something along those lines. It's at least a more competitive basketball game. Could be a, 10-point swing maybe. I think Brennan Laureate's a very valuable piece to this basketball team, maybe the most valuable piece to the team, to be honest with you. Even with Honor Huff. Now, Honor Huff, yes, he's your elite scorer, but even if say he scored 6 points last night, Laureate probably would have gotten you at least 10. So, and again, more rebounds. And him being a veteran player, a lot of those minutes that went to DJ Thomas would have went to Brennan Laureate. And him being an older player, I think that would have been a much better situation for the Mountaineers. Now, the bright side, the silver lining of that is DJ Thomas got thrown to the wolves. He's going to be more prepared for that next time, and it's just going to help him grow. So it'll help the future build of this program, of this team. Having DJ Thomas, Amir Jenkins, and players like that in this game against that level of competition in that environment is going to do nothing but help them going forward. So that's the silver lining to this. But for this year, man, there's going to be some growing pains. I've been saying over the last couple of weeks that West Virginia is likely not going to win more than 4 to 5 games in the Big 12. I'm sticking with that. I just don't think they have a roster from top to bottom that can compete in that conference. They're not deep enough. They're not big enough inside. And I don't think they have enough scores to compete in the Big 12. That's just my opinion. Points in the paint, Iowa State won that battle 32-26. Bench points, West Virginia actually outscored them 19-18 in that category. Iowa State had 10 fast break points to the Mountaineers 6. Iowa State had 5 blocks to only 1 for the Mountaineers. That's another thing. Brennan Laureate gives you a player who probably would do a better job, getting blocks and disrupting shots around the rim. And then assists. Iowa State had 26 assists on 29 made baskets. They and you could see it watching the game. They passed the basketball extremely well. Not only do they pass it a lot, and not only are they great at finding the open man, but they are accurate with their passes. It's a lot easier for people like Momcilovic and Bateman, who was 3 for 3 from 3-point range. It's a lot easier for those type of guys to make threes when you hit them right with it when the ball's hitting them right in the chest or right in the shooting pocket when they catch it. Iowa State was elite last night at passing the basketball, in my opinion. And it showed right here, 26 assists. West Virginia had 13 assists on only 21 field goals. But they don't pass the ball enough. And when they do pass it, they're not always accurate with it. They're to me, they're just not a good enough passing team right now to win a ton of games. That's one area they definitely need to improve in. They need to pass it more often, and they need to be more accurate with it when they do pass it, especially around the perimeter. They're not bad at passing it inside, getting it into Harlan Obilha, letting him pass it back out or hit cutters. They're pretty good in the I'll call it the short passing game, for lack of a better term, to kind of compare it with football. But as far as the around the perimeter passing, they need to do a much better job of that, in my opinion, than what we've seen from this team, especially last night. So, anyway, that's my take on the game. Brendan Lorient being out hurt, but it did not change the outcome of the game. West Virginia needs more scoring. They need more rebounding, and they need more size, which that and the rebounding kind of go hand in hand. And they just need more consistent play from their top guys like Honor Huff, Trayson Eaglestaff. They need those guys to be more consistent. And I'll even throw Jasper Floyd in the mix. He's your starting point guard. You need more than 2 assists from your starting. Now, they didn't put the ball in his hands the entire game last night. They were using him kind of off the ball some. But still, in my opinion, he has underperformed my expectations for him. Now, maybe he'll get better as they get further into Big 12 play. But as of right now, I feel like they need more out of him. They need more out of Eaglestaff for sure. And I think Honor Huff is going to have to play better than he played last night, because right now he's been their only consistent scorer. Anytime Honor Huff scores 6 points, this team's going to struggle to win games. It's just the way it is, because he's going to need to drop 15 to 20 a night for them to even have a chance, in my opinion, unless somebody else can step up. All right, let's go ahead and get over to the chat room and see what you guys have to say. Thanks for sticking in here. I have 111 people watching. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Kevin Varney's in the house. He's also a paid VIP member. What's up, brother? Thank you for joining the show. Tundra 1534 in the house says, I like Harlan, but he doesn't play like he's 7 foot. We gave way too many second chance opportunities on the boards. Absolutely. Stormy Cyclones in the house. A Cyclones fan. He says, Coos, I was at the game. The crowd was not that loud. The students aren't back yet. Well, it sounded loud to me on television. And but great point. I know that's how great that environment is. It sounded really loud, but it's still probably the loudest environment that team has seen, because that was their first true road game of the year. Every other time they've played away from Hope Coliseum in Morgantown has been a neutral site game. So it still, for them, was probably loud compared to what they had been hearing. And most of those guys came up from a lower level. Well, they probably were not used to crowds like that. So I still think it could be considered loud for them. But that is a great observation. Glad they played there now. If they played there later in the year, it probably would have been much louder. Definitely a great point. We have Go Ears 206 in the house. H. Bar Farkle. Who's a VIP member, says it begs the question, are we not doing well at evaluating talent? Talking about the men's basketball team, I think. I don't know. I'm not going to say that yet. I mean, when you look at the recruiting he's done from the high school ranks so far, he's brought in a lot of really highly talented players. I like what I've seen from Amir Jenkins so far. Remember, he came a year early. He still had another year of high school remaining. So when you consider that, I think he's playing pretty well right now. But did they miss on some guys out of the portal? Maybe. But you also got to look at how late they kind of got a late start on the process. They probably did not have as many guys to choose from. And I'm not sure exactly how their NIL situation was either. So, and their best recruiting assistant did not get hired. He was the last assistant hired, if I'm not mistaken. Yusuf Ali is who I'm talking about. He's the coach that came from Canada that helped get, Miles Saller out of UDM from next year. He might have even had a hand in getting some of these guys for this year, but point being, he's arguably the best recruiter on that staff, and he was the last assistant hired. So they didn't have as long of a chance for him to go out and get players that he wanted to bring in. Now that he's there, if they can keep him, I think you'll see better talent acquisition from the portal next year. At least that's what we have to hope for. But I do think they might have missed on some guys. Tundra also said we missed Lorient, and from my view, the only one that attacks the rim is Moore. We passed the ball back and forth too late in the shot clock, and that one Iowa State player shot 80% from three. That's insane. Yes, I agree. The passing the ball back and forth too much late in the shot clock, they need to start that earlier, get more passes, make the defense work more, rotate more, wear them down a little more. I don't think West Virginia's doing a good enough job of that at this point in time. Great observations. Mike Hudgens with a football comment talking about Jaheim White says, I can't believe White is visiting North Texas instead of sticking with us. I guess maybe RR booted him. Not sure if he booted him or not. My guess is it was a mutual decision. But when I saw the news today that North Texas, a.k.a. Neil Brown, is hiring Chad Scott to be the running backs coach. When you put those two together, it makes sense why Jaheim is visiting North Texas. He loves Chad Scott. Chad Scott's the reason he came to West Virginia and was the reason he initially decided to stay at West Virginia. Because if you recall, Chad Scott was retained on the staff for a while, and then Jaheim decided to stay, and then boom, lo and behold, Chad Scott leaves, and now Jaheim is leaving. So Tundra says older gentlemen like Trickett is from the no-nonsense generation. Either the players will get with it or they won't be here. He commands a lot from his players, which means he cares and wants the best. Yes, and so does Rich Rodriguez. That's why they work so well together. They're kind of cut from the same cloth. And they're going to bring in hard-edged guys. They're going to bring in guys who want to put in the work, who want to be the best, and who aren't going to whine, bitch, and complain and moan about things. They're just going to freaking work their tails off. That's the culture being built at West Virginia. And it might be, look, you're going to have to weed guys out. There are going to be guys who might not be able to handle it, who might quit, who might leave. But once they get their guys they want and the guys who like that environment and like being coached hard like that, I think the future's bright. I really do. We just got to try to be patient. Might be another, average year in West Virginia because they're going to go through another rebuild, but they're going to have their guys. At least they'll have more guys there for spring ball this year. They'll have, in my opinion, a better staff, at least from the offensive line standpoint this year, and at least some continuity with the guys they are able to retain from last season. Yep, he needs a decent O-line to get a true evaluation, says Travis Overdorf, talking about Scotty Fox, and 100% agree. Got a super chat here from Swabby G, a.k.a. Appalachia Africa Twin. Thank you, brother. He says, Happy New Year. Shot for you, Brother Coos. Happy New Year, and be blessed with good tidings. Thank you, Swabby G. Thank you for the support, brother. Speaking of, this is one of my Christmas gifts. One of my daughters bought me a brand new water bottle to keep my drinks good and cold all day long. It's water, by the way. I don't drink enough water. By having this big old cup with me all the time, it causes me to drink more water, which is a good thing. But thank you, Swabby G, for the super chat, brother. Ugasuk only played like 2 minutes, is based on the stats there, Eric Flowers. WVU Fan 13 in the house is also a VIP member. Says, I think we have the talent to compete with the basketball team. The problem was that they were hitting every shot. They were pretty much throwing up. We weren't hitting anything. That was part of it. But I just, based on previous games, I think defensively West Virginia can compete if they're communicating well and doing what they're supposed to do. The problem is the talent level is as such to where they have very, very little room for error, and they have to play almost flawless basketball, and they're not ready to do that yet because they're a brand new team. And the offense is just not coming around quick enough to complement the defense. Even when the defense plays well, the offense can't sustain it for long periods of time. And then, as like Coach Hodges mentioned, The offense starts to play bad or inconsistent, and then the defense follows. It's called complementary basketball. They're not playing that right now. So I slightly disagree with you on the talent. They have a few. I'm not saying they don't have, their first 5 guys, or even, I don't even know. I think their first 3 or 4 guys are talented enough to play in the Big 12. The problem is I don't think they have the depth yet to compete in the Big 12. You need 7, 8, 9 guys who were Big 12 caliber players. And right now I think they might have less than 5. That's just my opinion. Seymour Wang says, much like football, the basketball team will improve as the season progresses. It will likely be too little too late, though. Great observation and great point, and I agree. Jerry Chicolella says, sorry if I missed it, but what is the news with the Oklahoma QB and his brother? Yes, Jerry, no problem. Great question. Michael Hawkins Jr. was the backup quarterback at Oklahoma. He has started 5 games in his career. He has been crystal balled to West Virginia by 24/7 Sports and On3. He's a dual threat quarterback, a very good runner, has completed about 60% of his passes in his career, slightly over actually. Grades out at about a 68 in the run game. Is a better runner than Scotty Fox. His throwing's probably about the same as Scotty Fox. But has graded out better, but has slightly less game experience. But he is a redshirt freshman. He's going into year 3 as a quarterback, but he redshirted his second year and started 4 games his freshman year and then 1 game last year in relief of John Mateer when he was out hurt. And his younger brother, is a defensive back who's also in the Portland. According to Pete Thamel, they both want to go to the same team, and West Virginia looks like the likely landing spot. Hopefully I answered your question. Stormy Cyclone says, Coos, any thoughts on Baylor grabbing an NBA player? I don't like it. I think it's terrible for the college basketball. It's terrible for high school recruiting. However, I'm not blaming Baylor for that. It's one of those situations where I say don't hate the player, hate the game. The rules should not – there is no way, shape, or form the rules should allow that. It's ridiculous. And I know what some people are going to say. Well, you can go out and get pro players from overseas. That shouldn't be allowed either. Either you can play professional and go back to college or you can't, period. They need to stop that nonsense. Now, do I blame Scott Drew for going out and doing it? Absolutely not. I wish West Virginia would do it because it's within the rules. I hate the rule, but you've got to do what you've got to do to compete. There's millions of dollars on the line. There's potentially the future of your programs on the line. So you do what you have to do within the rules to compete. My problem is with the rule. The rule should not allow it, but as long as the rule allows it, go out and find the best players you can find. So that's my thoughts on it, Stormy Cyclone. Yep, Mike Hudgens, if we can get a bowl next year, that is my expectation. Press Virginia needs to come back. The WVU has to make games ugly to win big games. And they're not doing Press Virginia per se, but they are trying to bring in a very aggressive style of defense. The problem is that the offense is just not good enough to complement it. And they're not playing that defense for an entire game. They're playing elite defense for spurts and for periods of time during games, but they're not doing it for the entire game. And some of that is because of their poor offense, which is leading, making it harder for their defense. Don Johnson says, I feel bad for any first-year coach. Fans, including myself, want to win right away, but it takes time. Our glory years are coming, and it will be oh so sweet. Don Johnson, I hope you're right, brother. I love your optimism. Fans are growing impatient. We have been now through 7 years of mediocrity to even being bad at times in football. And in basketball, we're now on our 4th coach in 4 years, have been mediocre to bad in basketball now for the last 5 to 6, I would say, or 4 to 5. Last year was good, but, it didn't make the NCAA tournament. So I would put that as an average year. And even the last couple of years of Bob Huggins, West Virginia was struggling. So the fan base is just hungry to be successful in the 2 major sports, man. Thank goodness we have baseball coming up, right? The baseball team is going to be our something we can hang our hat on, hopefully. Jared Houghton in the house says, I'm all in on Michael because of the inside track with Allie. What better evaluation cloud you asked for? Exactly. Like I mentioned earlier, his defense had to play against Michael Hawkins every single day, or most days anyway, a lot of days. So he knows the capabilities of Michael Hawkins because he's been on the other side of it. So what better person to ask, hey, how good is this guy, than the guy who practiced against him almost every day? I don't think you can, and like I said, at the very least, he pushes Scotty Fox and makes him better, or beats him out and becomes the starter and gives you a really good fast dual threat quarterback who can run Rich Rod's system. Tundra says, no offense to Scotty, he done solid for a freshman, but with our uncertainty on the O-line, Hawkins has much more upside to scramble and make something out of nothing. Great point, Tundra. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think he gives you that run threat that Scotty doesn't. Yes, Scotty's a good runner, but I think Michael Hawkins is a really good to great runner. And I think he gives you that extra gear. You know, once he's going to be able, when Scotty Fox got in the open field, guys could catch him. Michael Hawkins is going to be harder to catch once he gets into the open field. And if with a little bit more continuity on the O-line, better coaching on the O-line, hopefully a better run game. We'll see who they bring in. Running back room has been almost depleted. We'll see. They got some great players coming in with Amari Latimer and Sir Paul Cheeks and Martavius Boswell and some others. I'm good at what I'm happy with what they're bringing in, but all of those guys are young, and it's going to take a little bit of time for them to adjust potentially. So they're going to still need. I'm hoping they go out and get Cam Cook from Jacksonville State out of the portal. That would be a great pickup. There's a couple running backs from Kentucky that's in the portal. They have ties with the running backs coach, Jay Boulware. They may come over, but I think the run game will be better this year, regardless of all that. I think the run game will be better, which will help the pass game, which will help everything. But it all starts up front with that better O-line. You know, Nick Cray should be back. He'll have a year in the system. Landon Livingston will have another year in the system. Josh Isosa, another year in the system. Some of these other guys. And then, you know, Kevin Brown's coming in, some other really talented O-linemen coming in, and I'm sure they're going to go out and get a few out of the portal as well. So I really, really like the building blocks. And again, majority of their new players are coming in the spring. So whereas last year, a large portion of them didn't get there until the fall. So they missed out on several thousand snaps worth of practice time that they could have gotten with their teammates to build chemistry, to learn the system, to feel comfortable in the system, to, you know, learn how to, and let's not forget, it was the coaching staff's first year altogether too. So you've got continuity among the coaching staff. Year two should be better, even though there's still going to be a lot of new players. I still think year two will be better than year one, simply because of the fact that you have better continuity on the staff, a little bit better continuity on the roster, and it's not everything's not brand new to everybody again. Tundra also says, I would like to see WVU bring Dom Collins or possibly give Brad Mosser a look. It's hard not to root for hometown kids. Absolutely, brother. I agree. Doesn't look like things are going to work out with Dom. I mean, obviously he left for a reason. We don't know what that reason is. And then not sure why they're not giving Mosser a look. I think he deserves one. But Brad Mosser is going to be a great pickup for somebody. And there are going to be a lot of teams, in my opinion, who regret not picking up that young man, because I think he's going to have a really good college career regardless of where he goes. He may have to go to D2 route or a small D1 route and work his way up. But again, the transfer portal, that's where the transfer portal is hurting high school recruiting. You're getting more and more less and less high school players getting a shot to play at the FBS level or at the Power 4 level, where more kids are going to have to go to lower levels and work their way up through the portal. You know, play good for a year or two, then move up a level or two, right? That's kind of how it's going to have to work for some of these players, like a Mosser, maybe like a Dom Collins and others. But I agree with you, man. I wish West Virginia would give them a look. I really do. All right, listen, thank you all for hopping on here. I appreciate all the interaction. Don't forget, if you're watching on the replay or on this live, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Be sure to drop a comment. Let me know what you think about Rich Rod bringing in Michael Hawkins and his younger brother from Oklahoma. Let me know what you think about the return of Rick Trickett to Morgantown. And let me know what you think about West Virginia men's basketball team falling to Iowa State in their Big 12 opener. And, how many games does this team win in Big 12 play going forward? I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. God bless you. Happy New Year and Q Country Roads.